Was your mother a cellist in the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra?
Edmonton, actually. But
Oh, okay.
I've never been to Winnipeg.
Never been to Winnipeg. Yeah. So how did you get started? Did you do the typical Canadian thing? Took music in school, or
we were friends. We were getting into like basketball and hip hop together, and then one time I come to his place. He's like, I got this new song to show you. I'm expecting, like a Jay-Z cut I haven't heard or something. I think it was either Bob Dylan or the Beatles.
Yeah.
So who were your influences then in music? If you had
Pavement, there's some of that. Personally, there's a little Liz Phair. I don't know how much that is of Shane's. Replacements, there's definitely a little Bob. A little Blur, I'd say. Maybe just a little. Because,
More like alternative kind of stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Mid-'80s, early 90s.
a pretty eclectic
Not
list.
big on not big on like the classic rock stuff, but
No.
some bands are okay.
Well, that kind of goes against the grain of the alternative, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Generally,
I don't know. I think it's more of like a sound thing. I think the song, like a great pop song, is a great pop song. I think you need that first to sort of find any success. And then if you want to sort of dirty it up a little bit, that's up to you. But I think it all starts with like sort of the songs.
Seems to be a bit of a push these days, and a lot of it may be coming from overseas that I hear that has sorry about that, that has a blend more of the 80s kind of sound again coming back. Have you noticed that? And is that something that that you put into your music as well, or interest in your music?
I don't know, because I don't know. I don't feel like, we had a very amateur start, right? So it's not like we were talking to people and like listening to other things like, what are you doing? So like we would start our stuff, and we'd have so many other influences that we would hear something else and we'd be like, oh, maybe let's bring that in. But it didn't feel like a pressure thing. It just felt like a natural, we like this thing, let's incorporate some of it.
So was this your first album then, or your first crack at it?
The first one we'll let people see.
Wrong process.
There's if you could ever torture the code to my safe out of me and dig underneath the booby traps, you'd probably find 2 or 3 CDs with the material
for sure.
But every band goes through that. I mean,
just finding the kind of music we want to make and get to a point where we felt like we could deliver it as close to as good as it sounded in our head.
Yeah, right? Just continually suck a little less.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that means at this point you must be looking forward towards the next one then, or are you focusing on getting out and playing and gigging and that kind of thing?
Yeah, doing all that. Yeah, more and more confident in what we're doing, and just believing that the songs are just valid. If someone finds them good or bad, it doesn't matter. But like, they're valid.
Yeah, they're at least something.
Yeah. It just kind of comes down to personal taste rather than good and bad at that point.
Artists recently, and a couple of them had mentioned something I had heard before. They used playing and going out and gigging as a method of testing new material on audiences and getting reaction. Did you do that by chance as well?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Whenever I show it, it's really cool to see what kind of sticks and what doesn't, and what the perception of something being deep when it's like the reality of writing something. It's just kind of a cool juxtaposition and learning what sticks and what to try to do a bit more and maybe do a little less.
I would also say that it more affects the next song that I'm writing as opposed to the one that I'm using. Like, if I play a work in front of someone, it's pretty close to finished. And if I notice, like, there's not as much reaction during the bridge, or I need to add something, those are minor changes. But I more think of, oh, they really seem to enjoy this type of thing, or this was really fun to play live. And then that kind of subconsciously works its way into whatever I'm writing next.
Well, that's interesting because I was about to ask, if it would affect how much and you would change the song. You kind of answered it ahead of the question. So you won't go back in and make any significant changes to the song, despite how the audience reacts. Maybe something minor.
I try to not get stuck on something because then it gets boring and it seems more like a job. And I know that I'll be able to write something again. I don't really have a lot of hang-ups on like, oh, this is the one that has to work. It's like I'll write another song that will be the new this has to work.